Good evening. Can you hear me now? Sorry, we have 3 microphones tonight. Sinclair has made a name for itself in England and all over the world as a company that has taken ideas and miniaturized them into very small spaces. In the mid-1970s, they pioneered the development of pocket calculators. In 1980, they introduced the first doorstop-sized personal computer. Last year, they introduced one of the first flat-screen pocket television sets, and tonight they're introducing officially in the continental United States and Canada and the rest of the continent the Sinclair QL, which is equally a milestone. It continues a trend that began earlier this year when Apple introduced, in fact, officially for the public at the Boston Computer Society, the Macintosh, a new niche of personal computer that is really too powerful to be called a home computer, yet in a price range and size that wouldn't really consider it to be a business system. And it's a development that is really quite exciting, that's bringing a new degree of power and versatility to the home user, which we're very happy to present to you tonight. And now it's my pleasure to introduce to you a longtime friend of the BCS, the Managing Director of Sinclair from Cambridge, England, Nigel Searle.
Thank you very much. Will you raise your hands or yell if you can't hear me? You're having difficulty hearing me? How did you know to raise your hands? Is that better? Yeah? Thanks very much, Jonathan. It's a real pleasure to be here in Boston and to be invited by the BCS to present the QL for the first time in public in America. I was going to begin by telling you what the QL was, but Jonathan's done that for me. It's a computer with the power of a business machine, but at the price of a home computer, one that is affordable by the consumer. I'd like to start with a few slides. Slides? The QL. Life-size QL. The original concept of the QL was developed in late 1982, and it was originally intended to be something quite different from what we wound up with. We had launched earlier in 1982, outside the USA, a computer called the Spectrum, which we've since sold 1.5 million of. We'd also announced in '82, although we didn't deliver until early in '83, our own proprietary mass storage system called the micro drive, which is an endless loop tape system. Uses small cartridges like this, each of which contains 100K bytes of program and data. It's a random access device so that you can access files on it and so on in the same way that a disk is used. Very low cost, very compact, very light. And we'd also been working for quite a long time on a pocket television set, which we finally launched late last year. And the original concept of the new computer, when we started to design it in late 1982, was to take the Spectrum, to take 2 of the micro drives, and to take a modification of the flat cathode ray tube that's in the television, and to bundle them into a single portable machine. But things got changed a little along the way, and we decided not to make it simply a Spectrum. We decided to use a more powerful processor and to give the machine more memory than the Z80 of the Spectrum would easily support. So that's the way the QL ended up. And one of the few things that it had in common with the original intention of the design was the 2 built-in micro drives. It uses a member of the 68,000 microprocessor family, the 68,008. That was a major decision for us to make. I think it guarantees that the QL will have a long life, because the 68,000 family, I'm sure, is here to stay, and at its upper end with the 68,020 is an extremely powerful processor. That's what the inside of the machine looks like. In addition to the 68,000, there's an Intel 8049 processor. The 2 micro drives are on the lower right of that photograph, and there's 128K of memory, of random access memory, of which 32K is used by the display and about 5 or 6K by the operating system, leaving over 90K completely free for the user. On the left of the printed circuit board, but still inside the case, you can see the expansion bus, onto which can be added various peripherals and a 0.5 megabyte expansion memory. This shows the back of the machine. It drives a television set or an RGB monitor. It has 2 RS-232s built in. It has joystick ports. It has a solid-state ROM cartridge slot. It has 2 RS-232s, did I cover those? And it has a local area network built in. That shows how the 0.5 megabyte memory expansion plugs into this side of the machine and extends slightly beyond the machine. It has an external power supply. The machine comes with micro drive cartridges in these wallets. A very comprehensive user manual, although, as I hope to show you, not a very necessary manual, because the machine is so very easy to use. In the read-only memory, 48K, it has an operating system and a version of BASIC, which we call Super BASIC. It's a highly structured language in which you write procedures normally. You can use go-tos and go-subs and so on, as in ordinary BASIC, but you don't have to. It's a much more powerful language. The user interface with the operating system at the command level is also an integral part of the Super BASIC. And in one of the applications, as you'll see, the database program, again, the interface is part of the BASIC. We're going to take a look now at some of the features of the machine actually running in a demonstration program on the machine. So could we switch from the slides to the screen? And if I can explain what is happening here, there are actually 4 totally independent programs running simultaneously on the screen. The main part of the screen is a BASIC program. There are 2 programs running the Sinclair logo at the bottom of the screen, and there's a third machine code program. Those are machine code programs. There's a third one which is running a real-time clock. I think apart from those 3 tasks at the bottom, and in some of the further part of this demo, you'll see the Sinclair name continuing, but otherwise I think everything in this demo is written in BASIC rather than in machine code. So we can see a bit of action. This illustrates the color capability of the machine. The resolution is 512 by 256 with 4 colors, or 256 by 256 pixels with 8 colors. Sorry, yes, with 8 colors. Can we continue? Some of the features I've mentioned already: powerful Sinclair Super Basic, high resolution color graphics. It's got full travel 65-key keyboard. Sinclair has been rather famous for flat keyboards, and one keyboard that was described as feeling exactly like dead human flesh. I didn't know whether that was true, but I tried, and it was. Multitasking operating system, our own operating system, built-in network and RS-232. I think everything else there I've covered already. Okay, so can we go on? This shows how you can create, or shows that you can create windows in BASIC. There are 3 windows here: a square one, a long one, and a tall one. And you can write text into those windows, and you can move text within those windows independently, and they each serve as act as if they were totally separate screens, so that when the text is moved off the edges of them, they disappear. All these wonderful features, I promise you, can be used to do useful things. This shows some of the richness of the Super Basic language, so that you have a if then else end if type structure. Those of you who are familiar with high-level languages will appreciate some of this. Repeat, select on. For the for statement is, I think, very readily appreciated, that you can write a statement of the type for I equals 3, 7, 15 to 25, steps of 2, 45, just a long list of the values and groups of values that you want the variable to take, without any restriction on the length of that list. Colors can be displayed plain and stippled effect mixed, so that you get, with some duplication of when you stipple a color with itself, but otherwise 255 different color effects. Serious application, what you can do with them. As I said, there's a local area network built in, hardware and software, cables, everything provided with the QL, and you can connect up to 64 QLs with one another. Transfer rate is 100 kilobaud. Obviously, you can use the network to have printers, disks as slaves on the system, but also simply to transmit information to one another. RS-232, as said before. And on the keyboard, I should have introduced Jonathan Oakley, who works for us in England and helped design the QL, and has written this demonstration program. Solid-state software, and a demo of graphics capability. Part of this you'll see is using the circle and ellipse function and the fill function, and I would emphasize again that that has been written in BASIC. Jonathan has carefully selected these colors to be the most attractive. But I think when it's finished, which it hasn't quite, I'm going to ask Jonathan to enter a command to redefine the colors, which, apart from the fact that it looks even worse with different colors, will show you the rate at which it will repaint the screen with different colors. But it hasn't finished first time. Is that it? Okay. So repeating the loop with recolor.
Dynamite.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, so much for the serious stuff. Can I go back to slides, please? So with every QL, you get 128K, you get 2 microdrives, and get all these wonderful things that it can do. You also get 4 applications programs bundled with the machine. They're not very imaginative. They're spreadsheet, graphics, word processor, database. But they are extremely powerful and extremely easy to use. I think the combination of power and ease of use is way beyond anything on the market. And I'd like very quickly, I have a lot of slides to go through, but I'd like to go through them and show you some of the features of these programs. This is word processor. And you'll see that all the programs, sorry? I'm sorry. Jonathan was meant to impress you all by telling you that I have flown from Tokyo today to be here, and it was going to provide me with an excuse for all the mistakes that I would make. I saw Justify and I thought, must be word processor. Spreadsheet, you'll see that all the programs have the same structure. At the top of the screen, there's in the top left-hand corner, it tells you that to get help at any time, you press F1, first function key. The help function will always give you help that is relevant to what you're doing at the present time, and when you're finished with help, it will return you to exactly the point you were in your application. Prompts F2 simply says that when you press F2, it will get rid of all that stuff at the top of the screen. When you become an expert user of these programs and don't need to be reminded of the commands, you can get rid of that by pressing F2. Press F2 again, it brings it back. Top right, commands, F3. It's actually in the mode where we've pressed F3 and we've got a list of commands. And it, on the command line at the bottom, it will show what you're entering. The red marker is the current cell, which is also identified at the second line from the bottom, tells you the current contents of that cell. Tells you how much of the memory is unused. So here we've moved on a little. We've generated months in the first row. You see now that we're not in the command mode. We're in the mode where you can move the cursor with the 4 cursor keys to change the cell. You can go to a particular cell. You can enter data and formula, and you can enter text. Now, you'll see that the box that says text type quote followed by text and return, down on the command line, we're actually entering sales, quote S-A-L-S-E-S. And because we're entering text, the instruction that we followed that tells us how to enter text has changed color, which is why the text box is in green where the others were in white. Before we entered the quote mark, they were all in white. So you get this feedback when you're doing what you think you want to be doing, you get the feedback of the change of color. This shows how we can generate a whole row of values. We're in this sales row, and we're telling it that we want the values in this row to be the sales for January. Sorry if you can't read that, but you can refer to any cell in the spreadsheet by the name of its row and the name of its column, or any part of those names that is sufficient to identify it. And you then ask for those values to be generated, and the machine will prompt you that you would like them from column C, because that is the first column in which it doesn't yet have a value, and you can simply press the Enter key to accept its suggestion, or you can type in something to overwrite it. And then, as you see here, it's suggesting that you would like to go to column L, because column L is the last column for which there is a value in the preceding row. All these programs will be available, being demonstrated afterwards, and you can, I hope, all have a chance to look at them and clear up anything that isn't clear from my rather rushed presentation. You can define a new line, as we have done there, profit, and simply say profit equals sales minus costs, sales and costs being two previous rows. Again, the machine will suggest that you should have that from column B, and when you accept that suggestion, it will say to column, whatever that column is that the last value is in. So it always makes an intelligent prompt. This just shows that when you go into the command mode and then select one of the commands, in this case for units, then in the top center of the screen it gives you the choices between integer, monetary, decimal, percent, exponent, general, etc. Okay? And you choose which one. It's suggesting decimal. The cursor is on the D of decimal, and if you want something else, you just type in one other letter. If you want decimal, you hit the Enter key and accept the suggested format. This is a default page. Again, you go into command mode with F3, you go to default with D, you then press, in this case, we would have pressed M to select monetary value as the thing we want to change, and it will toggle between the pound sign and the dollar sign. And you can change all the other default options there. This shows that you can create windows horizontally or vertically. I'm not sure that actually illustrates any new feature, underlining, double underlining, those sorts of things. That shows the actual window commands at the top center. You can join windows, split windows vertically, split them horizontally, as I said before. I'm showing at the bottom there that the current contents of Q11, which is the cell we're on, identified in red, that the current contents are a formula, which is the sum of the elements R11 through M11. And that simply shows that these applications can not only be run in 80-column mode, which is everything we've been looking at on a monitor with 4 colors, but that they can run in, I think, 64-column mode, 40 on a screen, on a TV screen, and you then get the advantage of full 8 colors. This is the graphics program, and this is the default option that it comes up with, which is a bar chart. And the vertical white line will be the position of the first number that you enter. And the scale is from 0 to 10, but if you enter numbers which are outside that range, it will automatically adjust the range. When you fill in all the segments to the right, it will automatically narrow the segments and allow you to enter more. I think maybe that. You can change the representation from a bar chart, and I think here we've asked for a different sort of bar. We've gone into the command mode with F3, then we've said we want to change the bar, and it shows the different colors of bars, white, green, green with whites around everything else. And you can define your own. And you choose one by toggling the space bar, moves that rectangle round the bar along the line. When you get to the one you want, you hit the Enter key, and it will redraw the chart with different colored bars. You can change the color of the background. You can change the color of the lines on the graph paper, and so on. This is another example of how you change the design. And as you change the design and go through the selection, before you finally made the selection you want and hit the Enter key, that bar that it was showing, go back, that large green bar on the right, as you step through the colors at the top left, that bar will change to show you exactly what your choice would look like if you confirm that choice by pressing the Enter key. This shows how when you enter more data than will fit horizontally, it simply moves everything along. And all that happens as quickly as you can type it in. This shows how if you enter a few negative numbers, it automatically adjusts the horizontal axis and puts bars in a different color below the x-axis. Change of format, you go into the command mode, you go into the change mode, and you select format number 4 in this case, I think. If you have entered 2 sets of data, you can display them both simultaneously. You simply hit the V command for view. It suggests all figures. If you want to see all the sets of data you've got in, then you hit the Enter key, and you get that. You get adjacent bars. You can, if you wish, choose overlapping bars or stacked bars. It gives a key to show which color corresponds to which set of data. You can move that key using the cursor keys. You can move it to another part of the graph paper in the background if you don't like its present position. I think maybe that shows the key box having been moved. You can define costs equals, profits equals sales minus costs, and it will just generate a whole new set of data, and when you ask it to view all figures, it will plot all 3 on the same graph, and again give you a key to indicate which corresponds to which. These are just other examples of formats, and I hope, as I said, that you can have the opportunity to use the program. This is probably the easiest to use in the sense that it's easy to think up things to do with it, and you could generate these sorts of charts that I'm showing here literally within 5 to 10 minutes of first putting your hands on the machine, and you would not need to look in the instruction book. Simply a different format. And more horizontal bars of various different types. If you go into 40-column mode, gain a wider choice of color. Pie charts as well, both in 4 and 8 color mode. And of course, you can use a graphics program for engineering scientific applications. This is a plot of, I think, 6 different sine functions. There is a full expression evaluator in all of the applications in the spreadsheet, the graphics package, etc. So that generating that sort of thing is very simple. Moving very quickly on to the word processor. You see exactly the same sort of commands and prompts available to you. This shows what would happen if at that top level you hit the first function key for help, and it would tell you at the top of the help menus what QL, the word processing package, is all about, and if you wanted additional information on commands, delete, escape, glossary, help, insert mode, etc. You just press the initial letter and you get more help. When it gets down to the bottom of the help menu and there's nowhere else to go, it says no additional information. You hit the escape key and you get back to exactly where you were before. This shows how you would get a directory of files on the micro drive and select one to load into the word processor. Here's some typical text. You can have bold text, which appears in green if the standard text is in white, or vice versa if you've chosen standard in green. You can have underlined text. You can have high script or superscript and low script or subscript. I think there are some examples of that. Sorry, that's a little dark, but it says this is normal text, this is bold, this is high script, and the words high script are slightly above the line, and so on. And you can have any combinations of any of those. To get those, you simply go into the command mode with F3, then you select T for text, and then you choose one of three options: bold, underline, high, or low. That shows how some of them would appear. You've got a usual sort of information, tells you you're in the insert mode, you're currently in bold text, you've got 79 words, you're on 8 lines, you're on page 1. There are default options for page sizes and so on that you can go into and change very readily. This shows how you can justify, again, F3 for commands, J for justify, and then hitting the cursor key, I think, you can have it either left justified, center justified, or left and right justified. And as soon as you choose one of those options, even before you hit the enter key to say, yes, that's what I finally want, as you step through those options and choose them, all the text on the screen will change to show you exactly what your document will look like if you choose that option. You can change the margins, 3 margins. You can choose the left margin, the indent margin at the beginning of a paragraph, or the right margin. Here we've chosen the right margin as indicated by the fact that the word right is in red in the center top box. The cursor is on the top line, and therefore all lines below that will be adjusted. And as we hit the cursor key to the left or right now, all the text will move left and right on the right margin. And every time you hit that key, even if that's not where you're going to stop, everything will change each time that you hit the key. When you're satisfied with the position of it, you hit the enter key and it fixes it with that margin. This shows the standard format and things like the number of lines per page, the starting page number, the type, color, and so on. All you do for this is go in the commands mode with F3, I think D for design, and then if you wanted to change the page size, you just press P. That option line will be chosen, and you then enter the number of lines you want on a page. When you insert text, if you insert one word, then as you enter each letter, all the rest of the text moves along. As soon as you enter a space and start entering more characters, the machine recognizes that you might be entering a block of text, and it moves everything down about 4 lines to give you space to work in without moving everything along and distracting you every time you enter a new character. These are just other examples of how you would change margins and justify the text. I don't think they add very much to what I've said already. That shows how if you get rid of the prompts at the top of the screen by pressing F2, you have more of the text visible on the screen. And you press F2 again and it brings back the prompts at the top of the screen. You can copy blocks of text. Go into the command mode, hit C for copy. You position the cursor with the cursor keys at the beginning of the block. You then move the cursor to the end of the block. Everything is colored with the background as shown there, reversed out. And you then position the cursor where you wish to move that block to, and at that point you have a choice as to whether you wipe out the old copy or whether you leave it there and truly do make a copy rather than move the text. Just illustrates tab functions. What that is doing there. Okay, so these are the beginnings of the database program that I'm not going to go into because it is more a vehicle for the creation of applications programs than an application program in itself. Although if you want to do very simple card index type filing applications, they're very, very simple indeed to set up. There is a sample database comes with the machine which has data about various countries in the world, their population, size, etc. And you can ask it to find France and it will look for that text anywhere in the database. You can ask it to select all those countries with population greater than 200. You can ask for it to select a country which satisfies the condition that it's in the continent of Africa and that the language spoken is French. But these simple examples don't convey the full power of the program, obviously. Between the 4 bundled programs that you get with the machine, you can move files wherever that makes sense, and you create an export file from one program, switch into the other program, and read in an import file so that you can take data from spreadsheet to the graphics program and so on, wherever that transmission makes any logical sense. Okay. Well, I think that's enough about the machine, and I'm conscious of the fact that I'm running over time and want to give you an opportunity to ask questions. I will just say this is a very powerful machine, but it's not aimed at the business market. This machine will sell in the USA later this year for $500, including the software. So we're aiming it very much in the software. So we're aiming it very much at individual consumers who we believe would like to have computers that they can afford that are capable of doing more than simply playing games and running simple educational software. The software that we've provided with the machine is somewhat business-oriented because that's the sort of software that the industry has been providing. But I believe that when hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have QLs, that the software industry will respond to that mass market and will produce appropriate software, serious applications for domestic use. And just to give you some idea of what that might be like, one of the projects that we're working with a software house on now is a home medical diagnosis package. It's based on copyrighted material which is approved for publication by the American Medical Association, and it will tell you when to go to the hospital and when to take 2 aspirin. And obviously I think the AMA would not approve its publication if they didn't think that it did the job at least as well as a doctor. And it will do it a lot less expensively. Thank you very much. Yeah. Should we have, thanks. Well, the 68, I mean, it's a good... I'm sorry. It's the question is, I'll repeat the questions briefly. The question is whether the microprocessor is a 32-bit. Apple, of course, claim that the processor in their Macintosh is 32-bit, and some people insist it's only 16. The fact of the matter is that the Motorola 68000 family has a 32-bit internal architecture, and the architecture is the same across the whole family. The different members of the family have different size data buses. The one we're using is the lowest end of the family, the 68008, which has only an 8-bit external data bus. Okay? I don't know where to start.
Can you describe the development environment on that machine, on the QL?
The question is about the development environment on the QL. I'm sorry, you're asking about the environment that we will provide on the QL for?
I don't know what's available. For instance, in an assembler. BASIC comes with a machine, I assume.
Right.
What assembler is available, and how do you develop programs?
As of today, nothing, but we will have an assembler, Pascal, C, Fortran. They will all be available either before the end of this year or very early next year. Most of those are coming from a software house, which is a household name in America, but which I'm not permitted to mention at the moment. I should mention, incidentally, that the BASIC machine, as I've described it here tonight, was announced in Britain in January, and we began shipments to customers at the end of last month, in April. Yes?
Approximately what does the half-megabyte memory edition cost?
A price has not been put on that. We have designed it, and it's been demonstrated publicly in prototype form. We haven't even yet made a volume commitment to manufacture, but I think it's obviously almost completely dependent on memory prices, which are not very stable at the moment. It's probably going to cost almost as much as the machine itself.
What will the channel distribution be? How will you sell a machine?
Channel distribution. We will launch the machine here in the States by mail order advertising initially in the Computer Specialist Press. I think that is probably going to sell as many machines as we can provide, not only later this year but the first half of next year. We have a fairly open mind about it. We've thought a great deal about it. We have a number of options under consideration. I don't think we're going to compete for shelf space with the computer dealers, who in any case would much rather be selling a $2,500 machine than a $500 machine. I don't think either that we want to get mixed up with the very low-end home computers. So we're exploring a number of fairly innovative ways of selling, mostly methods of selling direct to the end user. Yeah.
Is there going to be any technical documentation available?
Technical documentation. The manual is about 400 odd pages. It obviously doesn't go as deeply as a lot of people would wish. The guy who wrote the operating system for the machine, and because of the microdrives and so on, he had to be intimately familiar with the hardware. He is now working on writing the QL Bible, which will tell you everything you ever wanted to know about the QL, and that only he now knows. It's going to take some time for that to be written, but it's certainly a project we aim to complete this year. Yeah.
Do you have a terminal emulator program for it?
Terminal emulator program. We have a major software house in England called Sycon or Skycon, who are a subsidiary of the BP oil company, a very large software house, who are writing a VT100, maybe VT200 terminal emulation package, and a video text package. Yeah.
What is the baud rate of the micro drive?
The micro drive Each cartridge contains 100K bytes. It is, I believe, 200 inches long, the tape, and it rotates once every 7 seconds. I've been on a plane too long to do the arithmetic. Yeah.
Meaning sound capability.
Sorry, yes, there is sound capability. Can you help me out on that? Would you like to come down and listen to it? Thank you. Yeah.
The 8049, is that the graphics processor, or are you using that for a special purpose? And how fast are you running your general bus?
Ugh. The general bus is running at
The main processor runs at 7.5 megahertz, the 8049 at 11 megahertz, and the 8049 runs the keyboard, the sound, and RS-232 receive.
but not the graphics.
Is that the bus, the 7.5 megahertz bus that will be on the expansion?
Yes.
On the one hand, you're saying that you want to attack the home market, but on the other hand, you have a local area network built into the machine. What's the point of that if you're not going to go into the business market? Or are you planning on going to the business market after you've cracked the home market?
The local area network got designed into the machine very much because we designed one for the Spectrum computer. It's a very, very low cost. It adds very little extra to the machine. And it's probably more appropriate to classroom use than to office use. Yeah.
I know this operating system is it's unrealistic, but Unix is being looked at as very popular as far as the 68,000. Do you plan to have it adopted or have people anything to it?
I think Unix is a fairly expensive operating system in a number of ways. I think it's a very good operating system for development work, and there are a number of potential customers, particularly in universities, both in Europe and in the States, who I think would be very attracted to Unix. And one product that we're looking at the moment, but have not yet made a firm commitment to, is an add-on to the machine with hard disk, backup, half megabyte memory, terminal emulation, and Unix, all in one box. But unfortunately, it's going to make the whole package pretty much the same price as anybody else's with that sort of performance. There are obviously some advantages that we still have in terms of cost. But I don't think that, particularly for a machine of this type, that Unix is an appropriate operating system for running applications.
How far do you plan to progress with the QL as opposed to the ZX81 and the Spectrum?
The ZX81 is selling in very small quantities now overseas. That is outside the UK. We're not selling in the UK anymore. The Spectrum, in March, we sold more Spectrums in the UK than ever before. We sold more overseas than we've ever sold before. There are over 5,000 programs now commercially available in Britain for the Spectrum, and I think it's going to carry on for a long, long time under its own momentum. So the Spectrum will be around for a long time as a predominantly games and educational machine. The QL, however, is the beginning of a line of computers that I think, based as it is on the 68,000, is going to see us into the 1990s.
That's what I mean as far as hardware. What other things are you going to bring out, pliers or I don't know?
We're going to put a display in it one of these days. We will support the QL as a system. We will maintain compatibility with the QL through future products. Yeah.
What plans are you making to service this machine in the U.S.?
we are talking to a number of service organizations. I'd be happy to go into more detail, or you could talk to someone in our Boston office about that. But it's something we've given a lot of thought to. Yes?
Two questions. One, can you buy a machine today by going to Britain, ordering from Britain? And
You can buy a machine in Britain today. Unfortunately, if you place an order, it will probably take about 9 or 10 weeks to get it. There's a backlog because as soon as we announced the machine, we were overwhelmed with orders. You could bring it back to the USA and it would work fine with a monitor, but not with a TV. Yeah.
What about printer output? Are you running ASCII? For output to a printer?
Yeah. Yes.
Telecommunications? Any plans from modem program?
Yeah, as part of the video text hardware and software module that's being developed, there'll be a modem. Yeah.
What about computer-aided drafting software or computer-aided engineering software? Will you be compatible with will you be compatible with existing stuff with the IBM, or are you going to...
The question's about computer-aided design, computer-aided engineering software, and possible compatibility with software that now runs on the PC. It's a field of software which we have just started to look at, mainly because a lot of people in our own labs would like to have that sort of software, and we've just commissioned a consultant who's a specialist in the area to study it for us. So no firm plans at the moment, but it's an area of interest. Yeah.
I'm interested why you left off the 10 keypad for calculating.
Really size and the dimensions of this in this format are dictated by the fact that if the keyboard went over the top of the micro drives, it would be deeper. As you saw from the slide, the internal board only comes up to about here. So in this dimension, it would have been even longer. So there was a design compromise involved rather than anything else. But I think that for the market we're aiming at, we can fairly easily live without it. Macintosh can live without it, we can. Yes?
How about a color printer for the nice charts and graphs?
Yeah, I've been looking at color printers. One of the problems is that when you can produce graphs and charts like that, it's going to be pretty disappointing if you can't get them printed out. And I visited the microcomputer show in Tokyo at the end of last week and was looking at some printers there. And I think that there are going to be some pretty startling developments in color printers in the next year or so. We've been looking at one or two like the Sakosha and so on and considering whether to do some sort of OEM deal and put our name on one of those printers. But I think things are changing so rapidly that probably for us it'd be better not to commit ourselves until we see what develops. There were some very, very nice color printers there in Tokyo.
Questions, please?
Yes?
When will you have a hard disk available, and about how much will it cost?
I'm afraid I can't answer that question. We do plan to have at least a hard disk interface. Yes?
What about third-party software development for the system? Any link-ups with the company?
We publish a lot of software under our own name that has been written by third parties already for our existing machines, and we're very interested in publishing software for the QL. I think virtually all the software houses that have been successful in Europe in writing software for the Spectrum have turned their attention to the QL. And we've got a lot of the early machines in the hands of software houses. And whereas we had no American software houses writing for the Spectrum, we do have several American software houses writing for the QL. So it's a very high priority. But the machine is so powerful that I don't think we're going to see a lot of applications appear very, very quickly. I think most of the software houses are intent upon doing something better than simply transferring their existing software from other machines and making use of the particular features of the QL. So I think we're not going to see a lot of application software until next year, I would suggest, and probably even 1986 is going to make 1985 look small from that point of view. Yeah.
You mentioned there were two RS-232s on the machine. Is there a parallel port for a printer?
There isn't a parallel port, but a parallel port is one of the options that you can plug onto the expansion bus. Yeah.
If you really want to crack the home market and sell millions of these, why are you not going to mass retail merchandising? Is it only your production limitations? Do you eventually intend to do that?
Well, it's a fairly complex question of distribution. I will admit to you quite openly that we are at Sinclair concerned about the fact that in 1983, major computer manufacturers, low-cost computer manufacturers, who had their products in widespread retail distribution in this country through the mass merchandisers, I'm thinking of Atari, Mattel, Texas Instruments, and Timex, lost a lot of money. And I didn't read too many stories about the mass merchandisers losing hundreds of millions of dollars. It's a very, very dangerous channel of distribution for a manufacturer of a high technology product in which prices may fall. We do not control the price of this product ultimately. If the components that go into this product reduce in price by 50% over the next 3 years, then we will have to reduce the price of the end product to remain competitive. But reducing the price of a product when a retailer has a few tens of thousands, maybe a couple of 100,000 units in the distribution pipeline is a very difficult thing to do. He doesn't want to hear that you can't afford to reduce the price of those he's already got because you built them at yesterday's component prices. It's a difficult problem, and we're just going to keep a very open mind about it. I certainly don't exclude the possibility of us going through those sorts of channels, but a lot of consumer goods in America are not sold through retail stores.
You think you've got less risk going through direct mail?
Every time you sell to the end user directly, by whatever means, you A, control the price, and B, you control the inventory pipeline, and that's got to be less risky. Yeah.
Just 3 questions on the machine itself. When you plug something in the side, like the 0.5 megabyte RAM, will you be able to plug things on the side of it, on top of it, or?
No, what you'll do if you want to have more than one peripheral attached in that way is that you will plug on first an expansion box that will then have multiple slots.
And you had talked about switching files between the programs. Can you, if you had a word processing program and you wanted to say note to a chart, can you take the graph and put it in there?
You've got to create the graph, create an export file, load the word processor, and then import that file to the word processor.
And sound, is it stereo or is it monitor?
If you've got 2 QLs on the local area network,
in database and in files, what is the length of line that can be printed out and can be displayed?
well,
on the screen you've got up to 85 columns. If you want to use a printer, you can configure, you can install your printer to have any line length that it actually has on the paper.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, you can display 85 columns or a window on 85 columns on the screen, but you can define the line length to be any number of characters you wish. So if you've got a 128 column printer, fine, it will print out 128 characters on a line. But you'll only be able to see 85 of those 128 at any one time. Yeah.
Can you discuss the price of the micro drives a little bit? How will they compare with floppy drives? I'm talking about the media.
At the moment, they're fairly expensive. And I'll confess that that is a deliberate policy to make absolutely certain that we are not embarrassed into having people want to buy more than we're able to supply. If you have a proprietary system, nothing will kill it off faster than not being able to supply blank media. But production by later this year, in fact by the beginning of the fall, is scheduled to be 2 million blank cartridges per month, and I think at that time we'll be looking at a price of around $2.50 for a blank cartridge at US retail. But don't tell anybody in England that. They're paying a lot more. But we are giving people, incidentally, included in the package, I made reference to this cartridge. You get a wallet with the 4 applications in on 4 microdrives. You get 4 blanks so that you can back these up, and you get 4 additional blanks to use for your own data. So you get 3 wallets and 12 drives included in the price. Yeah.
I think there might be massive interest on the part of people having this as a home system who have computers at the office right now and want to work on their spreadsheets at home. Is there any, are you predicting that maybe some third-party people might be interested in bridging that connection there?
Yeah. I'm not aware of any activity that's going on in that area yet. And in Europe, generally, there isn't the dominance that the IBM PC has in the office here. But I would certainly expect in the US that if we are successful in selling a large number of QLs, that many of them may be used at home by people who have PCs at work, and there would certainly be a market for software that would enable you to transfer files between them. Yeah, right at the back.
Is the QL compatible with various printers or electric typewriters, or is it a matter of waiting for you to make one?
Through the RS-232, there's that degree of compatibility with typewriters and printers. Yeah.
You have 2 RS-232 ports. What's the hardware support that you're using to drive those? Is it asynchronous or is it asynchronous and synchronous? And can a program, either an application program, interface to those ports?
Jonathan.
Yeah, an application program can interface with the ports very simply. It's a very easy device driver to use. The actual hardware allows full duplex communication on both of the serial ports simultaneously. You just have to be very careful about your handshaking requirements on that, because, for instance, the second processor is doing the RS-232 receive on both of those ports, so it obviously can't listen to both of them simultaneously.
Both of those ports are asynchronous ports? Or can you pass synchronous
they're both asynchronous,
yeah.
You seem to have a very unique product here, vis-a-vis price and capability. But this is also a very competitive business. Don't you run a risk by adopting this attenuated marketing system of being overcome by another producer and perhaps overwhelmed if they are adopting a mass marketing procedure?
Well, we don't have an attenuated marketing system. We are not committed to anything other than launching the product by mail order and probably sticking with mail order as long as we can sell everything we can make. We take the view that we only need to seriously worry about channels of distribution when we have the problem that we can make more than we can sell. And I think that's going to occur not until the second half of 1985.
How many do you make?
One every 26.
I think we make 500,000 this year. and I hope that we're going to be able to make 1 million next year, but the constraints on that mainly come from the semiconductor industry. Obviously, we've gone to great lengths to make ourselves feel secure as far as Motorola are concerned. With the 68,000, the general memory market is a little more worrying, and that is certainly proving a limitation, I think, to most manufacturers now. So, but on the other hand, there's enormous capital investment going on in the semiconductor industry, and I think they're moving towards the 256K DRAMs faster than most people thought they would. So that may not be a limitation. But we're looking for those sorts of volumes. Although it is priced higher than the Spectrum computer, I think the combination of performance, value for money of the machine is such that we expect to sell at least as many as we have sold Spectrums. And that's without selling any in the USA. We've sold 1.5 million in 2 years. Yeah.
Just one quick question. I was wondering, how exactly does the operating system handle the network for us?
The network is actually driven directly by the processor. Whenever you're using the network, it ties up the main processor. And it reads directly off the network. Checks to see if there are any clashes.
Okay, so use individual...
Jonathan's anxious that I should wrap things up with just 2 more questions. Can I suggest that you talk to Jonathan, this Jonathan, afterwards? Right. I now have the invidious task of choosing the last 2 questions. Yes?
When are you going to begin to accept mail orders, and when do you expect to deliver the first units in the U.S.?
As soon as we get FCC approval, which I think will be in the fall, we will immediately start soliciting orders, and as soon as we get the orders, we'll ship the machines. Yes?
Will you take a trade-in on a previous product?
Depends how much you want for it. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks.
Changes that margin. We should get one shot of the screen. Yeah, change the right margin. It's not going to be easy, but we get that done later. All right, make sure, make a note of that. Make sure we get that. Here's good old pause.
One of the kind of quiet defaults.
3 forms of code. Byte, word, and 32-bit.
Because we chose those 3 by line chart.
That's pretty nice. Point relative. 3 color the screen. That's what you're doing there.
Go back to that
And that other thing at the beginning, that auto thing.
No, the other little just if you want to enter a program, it gives you the next line number by 10. This is like desave, saves. See, and here they imply that you save something in the rest. Typical thing, the examples have all the real information. Scale. Save the area of memory for loading and executing.
Not too close to your gate.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, we are actually rather jazzy. Of all the jazz in this one, I would. No, I'd like great. Appreciate keeping it. Okay, I don't think this is where we want to be.
I hit escape, but now
we're coming back out.
I'm not sure if it's technically live or that'll be a race.
We're doing that. Let me check something.
Oh, there we go.
You went. Okay, let's.
We're back at
edit. Go for edit.
edit.
Okay, edit. L to edit labels, K to move the key. Got it.
Okay, ooh, that's the wrong label. That's
Okay.
a program style. Key. Key.
Yeah, okay. Let's escape. Okay, now it's F3, and select edit, select K to move the key. Okay, now, you can move the box around, and where you set it down is where the key will be. Phew, that is the first time I have seen that done on this screen. Okay? I was reading about that on an airplane. Bob, how you doing? Now let's see if it works. Son of a gun, it even works. We haven't done a pie chart yet, which is sort of natural extension. Notice this stuff has all been sort of stumbled into in the last, we've been at it now about 10 minutes. And I haven't managed to do anything on the keyboard except once hit one of the keys. So the claims that were made a little earlier about being fairly intuitive and fairly straightforward.
Okay, I pressed files, now it's more
Files, delete file.
backup, import, or export. How about list?
No.
V for view, isn't it?
That's
I want to list my files on a disk here somewhere. It doesn't seem to have a...
List your files on the disk. An interesting
Let's see,
thing.
perhaps if I do a load, it will... Yeah, there we go.
Question mark. Okay, let's see what we got on the disk. Good. Nicely done.
Now it only...
It's looking on there for
yeah,
disk.
all that's on this one then is the applications program then?
Yes. Now on here are a bunch of very tedious little files. The only one of which is an actual graphing file. How do you read this? MDV2 is sort of Sinclair E's for microdrive 2, on which are 213 of 225 sectors are still free. I've done two things in the spreadsheet thing, Abacus, which have given us substance. The one you want is... Who wants to borrow that? Oh, Jonathan. You're that fast.
Some guy in the red hair going.
Yes, you're doing fine. At this point, we should get what? We gotta wait.
I notice sometimes it tells me that it's asking for the drive and sometimes it doesn't.
Process accessing microdrive. Yeah, then it eventually gets around to it. I'll tell you, on a few days' use, it's a great question to me how this is going to work with hard disk. I mean, just how the only constriction I can see is the little micro cassette stuff. Again, for a home market, who cares?
Is there any capability for 5 1/4 inch floppies?
Not so far as I know right now, but with the RS-232 connection and general bus certainly ought to be feasible soon.
They fill in the micro drive with the spectrum separately?
I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea at all. No problem. I'm not answering questions here. Is anybody else? I just as soon not play. I think a test of something's user friendliness is to. Oh, you hit F2.
I hit F2. That's right.
Which does a very nice thing. It suppresses
Oh, that's right.
The nice feature of that is that it allows you to, of course, get a bigger picture. And something I haven't tried yet, but I found out about today.
Can you get rid of these status lines on the bottom?
That's what I just found out about on the plane. Did that. said,
Try going back and doing it from the other way. Perhaps it'll only.
Try the other way. No, it wasn't too bad.
How about control it? No?
No, shift X. Okay, doesn't work. The notion in there is that you would like to suppress this when you photograph this. And one of the very key things in the manual is it says, well, you can dump this stuff to an MX-80, or you can take a Polaroid picture of it, and it goes to some lengths to get a long focal length lens to do that. But this kind of color, that seems. Choice by example. Question mark is your friend. Why be smart?
Return?
Yeah. Hang on. Now, what kind of a background do you want? If you move the arrows, said I wasn't going to touch it. Have a go. Move an arrow. See what happens.
I'm curious what happens when you go down to a question mark there. It doesn't.
Well, which one do you want? Okay, go for it. Change to grab.
Can you get the pole out of the mic stand?
Yeah.
The mic stand, just loosen it and then slide the piece all the way out. Just keep rolling until she comes
Pull it
down.
out. It's like a little magic.
How is it protected from demagnetized?
What?
How about 9?
Go for it.
What was the question you had there?
Keeps being my program.
Well,
What? There's a little 7-foot piece of tape in there going at very high speed.
7 foot, that's all?
200 inches is what he said.
Oh, 200 inches. I had read about it. I thought it was 200 feet.
No.
200 feet, that's a lot of stuff in there.
They're pretty neat. They're
And
pretty
how
neat.
fast does it take to go from one end
7
to the other?
seconds.
From one end to the other?
So you go, you went, who did this? I did. My beautiful line graph. You take, and as you saw, you can lay a bar chart out here, double bars, and then choose a different representation for one third data line and lay lines over bars, which is pretty, actually, very nice. Very nice. Let's see what happens if you select edit and T for text. Text. Put X wires near start of text. Well, why don't you just type in something right now where you are? Where you are.
This is the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah. Any old.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Were you here for the presentation?
No.
Okay.
You missed your chance. You almost got in.
Now,
Really type in.
let's move this. I can't take.
Volume skill. I mean, there are people who tried to do it. There are people in Korea, in Hong Kong. We've had 2 successful lawsuits in Hong Kong against people copying spectrums. We're pursuing 2 people in Brazil, 1 in Korea. You know,
Why doesn't
it does
that-
happen, but once you get established, it's very difficult to move. Why doesn't somebody produce a machine that runs Commodore 64 software? God knows, they're making out like bandits. They've got the whole low end to themselves.
Have you looked at becoming Macintosh compatible at all?
No. Although I think what's going to happen is because of the commonality of the processor, a lot of people who write software for Macintosh will see the opportunity to fairly readily convert it to run on the keyboard.
That's a possibility.
So, you know, we're all in favor of Macintosh. Macintosh proves that you don't have to be IBM compatible if it succeeds, and we're also in favor of it because it's 68,000 based, and we have the software houses moving in that direction.
Do you have a mouse interface for it now?
No.
Yeah, but you're going to be programming, you said C and Fortran, a high-level language going to run on your operating system. So once you have that, any
Sure.
software written in C, Fortran.
Yeah.
A lot of Macintosh.
All this
can be in
software
C
was
and
written in
Fortran.
C.
A lot of
The core
Macintosh stuff
applications
is written
for
in
the
C.
bundle. It's all written
That
in C,
is-
developed on a VAX.
That is a
What I was going to ask you is, what did you use to develop your...
We didn't. The software that you've seen there, the 4 bundle packages, weren't developed by Sinclair. They were developed by a software house in Britain.
And they did it on Baxter?
And they did it on VAX. We did our own development in-house on VAX also, as it happens.
Can I ask you this? The impediment you just described as somebody coming in and copying your machine. Why wouldn't that also prevent people from producing PC clones, things like that for IBM? I mean, they obviously have tremendous competition come in.
People are producing PC clones.
Huh? Excuse me? Yes, I realize that. My question is, if they're producing the PC clones, why would you prevent them from producing using QL? The price structure?
I think it's the price structure. I don't think it's the micro drives and things like that, but it is also the price structure. We don't create an umbrella for people to see an opportunity to come in and make money. If I'm in Taiwan, I can see ways to make an IBM clone and make money. Sell it less for IBM and still make a lot of money. Shoot, who wants to make one of those and sell them for $400?
So it really is your...
And you've got to get that application software as well. I mean, there really is probably 20, 30 man years of effort in that application software.
So it's your position in the marketplace then.
Also, and we get that software at a ludicrously low price because of the volume we can deliver. The company that's developed that software, we bought over 1 million pieces of software from them in 1983, the Spectrum. So they have confidence in our ability to deliver volume, and so they give us a very, very good royalty deal. But if somebody else goes to them and says, will you provide this software for my machine, A, they're going to say no because we're contractually forbidden from doing so, and B, even if we did, it would cost you $100 per machine.
But couldn't somebody develop a machine that would run that software?
Where are you going to get that software from then? See, we're not protecting it at the moment because we're giving it to everybody, so we're not protecting it. But if anybody had any use for it, we'd start protecting it in one way or another. You know, I mean, physically making it difficult to copy. So.
Well, I know you
we put it in ROM cartridges.
Yeah.
Okay.
Congratulate you. It really was an excellent. I've watched a lot of these presentations, and this one, something always goes wrong usually with them, and you can't see this or you can't see that, and the slides don't work. You really have it down to a
Thank you very, very much.
They've used a secret
Thank you so much. I said when I arrived here earlier, I only flew in this afternoon. I arrived and met Jonathan, and I felt like I'd come to perform an opera, and I never
probably used
hear this
50,000
before.
custom files.
Probably.
Very hope it's great. Good. Thank you very much indeed.
Congratulations on your
Thanks for
product.
coming.
We can run VMS.
It's exciting to be here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll see what you do is you go to the Belton tool.
Thanks.
Going to do graphics, like the pictures he had up there, the other machine, because my Davis called the pinstripe suit over there is demonstrating that package. Yeah.
On the disk, does it read it contiguously, or does it have to make several passes?
It reads it. It's unidirectional. Jonathan may kill me for saying this. I'm not sure if it's true. The current operating system, when it's loading, it misses a sector. It waits, comes around to the second time. But the production operating system doesn't do that. It buffers them all up. Sort of continuous loop. Continuous loop. Yeah.
7 seconds.
Yeah. Well, and you can tell that it's different because sometimes you load something and it goes right up.
No, I thought it was a lot more.
If you do F2, you'll get the top back again.
If you're writing for publication, most stuff that's printed is printed in black and white. Colors are more expensive. So
if you're doing graphics, you might care.
Yes and no, but still, you add a lot to the cost of a publication
Printing
if you go for the color. So how, in terms of these various modes of portraying data, how well does it work out if you just want to go for black and white?
It works out well. I've been doing black and white. It's nicer to look at the screen and
Tim, does the software run in 40 columns as well? Or not?
Yeah, it does. In fact, you can do that. See if we can change that here.
So, I mean, the point is you could run the software off of a TV, just even including spreadsheets and the word processor.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, all of it.
Does it have a built-in modulator, or do you have a separate box like a common?
No, it's UHF.
Oh, okay. Oh, UHF.
Channel is. Yeah. The one we've been running has been 35. I don't know why it's 35.
Presumably, it would be switchable between two channels anyway, right?
What did you have there? I tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out of this and go to the word processor and I know how to do this. I know how to change these.
Sorry. Pretty good. I know it does now.
I have had them. I put my entire history switch for a few days. Should ask John.
Tim, are you and Jack working full time, or is this a consulting contract, or what's your arrangement?
This is a consulting contract.
Oh, I see what he's doing here.
Forgive me, this is literally the first time I've voted this version of Abacus. Candidate is the one after before.
You said there was sound, was there the one tone voice generator?
As far as I know, the only thing about the sound is the command station.
Oh, I will have to go on the other side. Excuse me.
Remember 15 feet left?
For some people, Sinclair has a reputation for
IBM PC basic in the sense of take colors between.
Yeah, it takes colors between the things. The online comment character, I think, is a exclamation point. But I'm not sure about that.
Looks like your name still.
Yeah, I will. I'll fix it up. I want to get the text.
Stay right where you are.
If you start loading, you forgot the name of your file, which I've done a lot recently.
Yeah, because they're going to be breaking it down.
Question mark.
Set up another.
Give you what's on the file. This happens to be what's on my that cartridge drive, about half full. And these are a couple of large word processing documents. These are all the database documents and programs. And this is the proposal. That one.
Put it on the ground and it'll reach.
Limited or powerful
the database part looks really, to me, it looks really powerful. You can do things with it that you can't do with a lot of other databases. You can have as many files as you want, connect them any way you want. The thing is, you have to write procedures to do that. You have to say, you have to hook those together if you want. Basic. The interface for the graphics tag is very different. If you want to pick which kind of graphic format you do, they give you a little sample. They draw on the screen little pictures of the graphic. You don't do that. But aside from that, F1 always means help. Always means get rid of the top of the screen. F3 always means command. Escape always gets you out of it. So once you've learned them, you never get fouled up by you doing the same thing again in some other package. It may not get you exactly all the way you want to go, but it's not going to ruin you. Sure, absolutely. Be my guest. It's not going to mess up anything.
Tim.
How you doing? Okay. What do you think? My name is
How about newsletters?
Can I back up just a little bit?
And look at this one. The graphics and spreadsheet format, yeah, it's really neat.
I didn't understand the database it's sort of an environment for databases rather than...
Well, he said it's an environment for making applications, and I don't entirely agree with that, but I like to write little programs anyway. If you like to write little programs, it's terrific, because you can do things with it fairly simply that you can't do with a lot of other databases. But if you like
putting it in?
PFS file, where you get led through it, hand, someone grabs your hand and says, now do this, now do this, now do this. It's not that kind of thing at all.
But do you write them in basic or do you write them
It's a basic like language. It uses some things that like basic, some things that are unique to the Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah. Do that. And it's a nice one too. It lets you, it's very easy, for example, to link as many files as you want to get. And set up a little form. You can input to a form where you input to the to a screen, then you can say, okay, if that field is this, then go ahead and look at this database file for this name and display that on the screen. So you can do anything you want to do. Essentially, you have complete control over each one of the records in each of the files.
Oh, okay. So you can draw something from one database, something from another, create and thing that is a document.
And it's the thing, no, you can create a thing which is a form on the screen. Or you could make a document out of it. You can do anything you want. You have control over what things appear as well. You don't have to use screen forms, but if you do, it's convenient.
Like you want to address a letter to somebody and you know you've got to save your Rolodex, so you grab it from the Rolodex.
But then again, the way they do something like
Try scrolling. Let me try that.
Next word.
Oh well.
There's a round card from the company in the back of that. What is that? That's basically the operating system right now, but it will not be that way. Oh. It will be internal. Yeah, I haven't lost anything.
Rollover problem. TES. Oh, it doesn't roll. Okay, it'll roll 2, but not
roll 2. Is that
yeah,
right?
if you hold down the T,
and then push the E, you get the T.
Then you hit the E. Do T and then E, then S.
You move to S.
Things are getting really lost right now. I'm losing the E actually. Okay. Just have to keep your fingers popping.
So this means it has 2 key rollover?
It has, yeah, it'll take a second key but not a third. If you have 3 keys down simultaneously, it's going to lose the middle letter.
The middle letter, oh, okay. Oh, so when you release them, you'll get the last one.
You get the first and the last. You hold down when you get it.
Yeah.
You hold down a second letter, and it won't press the second until the first one gets released. But if you then press down a third,
okay,
the second one disappears.
Oh.
Anyway,
let go of them.
It will give you where the page breaks are going to be. The only way to do it, as far as I know, is to find those page breaks. Mark that back up to the keyboard.
I don't see why they make the keys these shapes. I mean, I keep feeling that I'm going off the key, you know, and it's still registered. As long as you catch the edge of the key anywhere, obviously it's going to work. It just feels so funny having this tiny round thing. You just wonder why they just didn't make a big dish. It doesn't look like much more space. I mean, you know what I mean? Why the big gaps between the keys?
It's the same characters. It's exactly the same. People come here, you know. Is that a marking shape? Because it's all bit named. That's it for us. The screen is the same.
You've got a word delete too, right?
There's a quality barrier. There it is.
I guess it was. It counts for, I've only seen it.
Taking your
Don't worry
word
about
for
the
it.
beeps, just keep going.
So apparently there is a non-justification.
Can you recover those words you just deleted?
Yeah, it's in non-justify now.
Is there a way of getting that back, like undoing the delete?
I could put 5 or 6 of these in my shop and use them as inputs to test sometimes
what just happened?
She went into insert, so it gave her space.
She did space.
No, she did space, so it did.
Have you heard the latest? No, all right.
We're running out of tape?
From my side,
Look in the window. Does it say tape in? Or something else?
What happens if you go down and try typing? Just go down one line and see what happens. It closes everything up.
You hit one up.
Yes, you did. Oh, I did. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to go down. You're right. Where's insert again? Oh, just type. Space. And the next character drops. And then if I move, now I don't know if I move down.
The margin, changing the margin, a little bit.
Close up the lock
Okay.
open.
I got a feel for it.
It's an interesting algorithm, for instance.
Oh, it is struck. Okay. Control back. Yes, I am. Hello. I'm fine. I'm exhausted. Other than that, I'm fine. I got up at 6 this morning in New York. Right. Okay. I have been told sorry, near the end of our meeting. Do you know how easy it is to get red light go on?
Oh, that means on.
You see the red light?
Yeah.
Okay. Now push it again till you get
Because I'll take one out. When we're done with the quill, we'll do a little bit of work, the word processors, and then we'll take that out and we'll put it in the archive and show that.
You can copy from one to the other.
You can copy from one to the other.
Would you be able to put several in simultaneously when we get the memory expansion?
Seven different programs at the same time?
Yeah, so that you could interchange.
When the screen comes up, this is just the picture that he showed. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to load a file that I've already got there, and the file happens to be called prop. Let's I'll show you the directory. These arrows, there's no backspace key. The backspace is a control left arrow. Okay, and you can edit as you go.
Is it a disruptive back?
That one is, but you don't have to do that. Here, if I type all this stuff, I don't mean to do that. I can backspace and then delete those characters. That way, forward, or I can just move back and forth in the command. Now it assumes that the data is all on this drive, which it is in this case. The word here is underscored, and in fact, if you look at the typeface of the data, you find that it's underscored. As you go down, this indicates what the character is. So these are all normal characters. This word, scope, is in bold. There's also a superscript and a subscript. I don't know if I have it.
Do you have an expand function?
An expand? Expanded text?
Expanded text.
Double width text.
No. But you can change
Enter format number. Question was allowed choice by example. You wanted to look at some other possible things. So type of question.
Get satisfaction through their
You could probably even call the office in Boston.
This
Probably give you
thing,
the address.
remember, this is for a home. Gee, you wanted to try some different kind of thing. Well, here are some of them.
I forget which way round it is. Yes. Ah, yes. Likewise. Yeah, great set. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we should have a good indication on that late summer, I think. Yeah. Yeah. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming.
Two questions. One, I have about 100 5.25-inch floppies. I would like a way to communicate between another machine and 5.25-inch floppy. Is there any way we're going to be able to do that?
Although we would,
We want you to believe that a micro drive is just as good as a floppy. As you say, there are lots of people out there with floppies already, and I'm sure that somebody's going to build, some third party's going to build a floppy interface.
Into which port?
Into the expansion bus, I would guess. Could do it through the RS-232, I think. No, very slow. Yeah, but if you only wanted to transfer stuff once and for all, might be, but probably through the expansion
How fast
bus.
is that micro?
Micro drive.
49 on the micro drive.
I mean, compared to a disk with a floppy, it's slower.
Data transfer rates.
Well,
pretty
not the
similar.
data transfer, but I mean, you know, flashing a file.
Yeah.
Access.
It's somewhat slow.
I mean, I was saying you only have to limit, once your production catches up with your sales, your distribution problem. Once you can produce more than you sell. It seems like what will limit you is the speed, that access speed. I mean, just because technology's been a couple of years, people will be
but all the increases that you've seen in technology for disks, in magnetic media, will apply and can be applied equally well to the micro drive. I mean, 100K capacity with 7-second cycle time isn't the limit. There are various techniques of thin film recording heads, vertical recording, and so on that will give you.
Third party, if nothing else, will do that.
No, we'll do that. We'll do that. We're not going to be selling a machine in 1990 that has 100K capacity on the cartridge. You know, it'll be a megabyte by then.
The other one is the compatibility.
Software for the local network.
No, we don't.
So it's just right now it's not working. It's just a connector.
I mean, there are commands in the BASIC which to exercise the local area network.
So you can, when it comes out of the box, hook up more than one QL.
Yeah, you've got the leads are provided. You can hook them up and start sending stuff to and from machines right away. Yeah.
And that's part of the terminal emulator, part of the communication program.
Plug into the one of the ports.
Yeah.
No problem.
Could we talk to you please about acquiring a Boolean version of QL antennas appropriate?
Really, you should address yourself to our Boston office here in the States, but we recognize that eventually we're going to want to do OEM business, and the time to start working on OEM business is sooner rather than later, not when you, as it were, need the business. Yeah, I'm afraid you're not going to get a very positive response at the moment. We are just formulating an OEM policy in Britain, and we're negotiating one agreement with one company to do an OEM product, or at least to offer a product to OEMs. It'd be foolish for me to pretend that we're going to have product available before the second half of next year.
And are you supporting any particular laser printers?
No. No, we're not at the moment.
Okay, so there's no problem with writing software for that purpose.
No.
You said there was a cartridge slot though. Does that accept any existing cartridges, or
no, it doesn't.
It would just
No.
be for future?
No, they would be proprietary shaped cartridges, but we'd make that design freely available for anyone to use.
But the interface, would the interface be available also? So if someone wanted to interface a disk driven to the cartridge slot, do you do that? Take the cartridge out? No, it has to be.
No, I think he's asking.
He's asking about the expansion bus.
Yeah.
It has to go to the expansion bus.
Yeah. Will that be made public then? The expansion bus will not, or will?
Well, I mean, the expansion bus exists there. You mean if information about it will?
So you could design.
Okay,
It's
that's
all
how you
going to be in the
design
QL Bible. It's going to be utterly and completely open in
Do
every way.
you expect that before the end of the year?
I hope so. It's a big job to write that, though.
Do you have a price? Ballpark?
None at all. But we're not. I mean, the objective is to cover our costs and to make sure that anybody who wants one can afford it. It's crazy to have people who want that sort of information not be able to afford it. So it's not going to be outrageously expensive.
Will a black and white monitor provide different resolution?
Different grade levels. Same resolution, but we'll just produce grey levels instead of color. Yeah.
Any monitor will work with this?
RGB.
RGB, any RGB.
Yeah.
Any like MDEC RGB or whatever.
We obviously haven't checked it out on a wide range of monitors available in the USA.
Those are your monitors then that you want to show over there?
Those are monitors that we picked up here in Boston, and a couple of them required a mod to be put on the QL. But you can be sure that any QLs that we sell here in the States will be compatible with monitors sold in the States.
Obviously, you're running these at 60 cycles, so that's no problem.
That's not a problem, no.
File structure on your set of programs open as in the sense that D-base files are open, so that you can go into that file with a program of your own.
I think so, but I'd have to suggest you ask Jonathan because I don't know, but I'm pretty sure you can, yes.
Will there be memory expansion less than half a meg?
There's no plan at the moment.
So we'll go for 128. Will be
To
half a meg
640.
plus?
Yeah, 640.
So you end up with a half a meg?
No,
No,
to 640.
more
You
than
end up with 640.
And that presumably uses the 256K RAMs.
It uses either 64 or 256.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So does that mean that the internal RAM is also designed so that you could pull out the 64K
Yep.
RAMs and plug in 256?
Yep.
So potentially you could have the expansion
All
plus.
inside.
Oh, no.
No,
There's the
no,
addressing
you
is
couldn't
not
do
there.
the whole thing 256 all the way through because the total address range of the 68,008 is only 1 megabyte. And you've got to take the ROM out of
Okay.
that, so you can't just multiply it all up by 4 and say you can have 2 megabyte. 2 1/4, whatever. 2 1/2.
It's limited by the size of the micro drive. I don't know the answer to that.
Is there any way you can tell it's still running, or is it just...
Yeah, there's a little light that's on there. There's nothing on the screen that tells it's still running, except that what will happen is you'll get a new prompt. That little bracket is a new prompt. There we are. Okay. Now we can go through and get the next by population. You'll see they get increasingly larger. You can with this system do everything you can with normal file card databases. You can say, find me the first where this occurs, find me the first country in Europe, find me the first country in Europe where the population is greater than 500. You can say a nice thing. You can take the 152 records and say, I really only want to deal with those in Europe. So select me only those in Europe, and it'll restrict the set that you deal with to just those in Europe. Then you can say, oh, I didn't mean those. I really meant the ones in Eastern Europe, and select it and receive it again.
Does it have for instance, right now you're seeing one record at a time. Let's say you want to list all the European countries and write a report with 4 columns. Does this have a report?
It does, and the way it works is you develop procedures. I will show you one. Let me show a couple other things, then we'll get to the procedures. If
Where'd you get that outside?
Really, literally.
Is it another database?
He's probably going to use that again now.
I'm going to load a screen that's a different image. All right, this is the same database but a different presentation of it. There's a little screen editor that lets you define screens and put fields on it. This one is exactly the same. As same data, everything works just the same. All we've done is change the presentation. And I have another one. And these are all loaded, all saved on the micro drive.
Oh.
This is exactly the same screen, except that down here it says this report prepared for, and you'll see that it's blank. In a different color. You can change the colors on the screen, and you can. It's like parts of it are like a language. So I can define me as I'm Tim, and now. That's great. I'm not ready.
No, that's great. I don't know. Yeah.
Place the lights down.
Let's do this the easy way. Sorry, I guess the button here. Now, if there's nothing in the drive, you hit F1. You're now in a fairly powerful BASIC.
It's BASIC right now.
Yes, it is implemented with BASIC.
Is the BASIC similar to any standard BASICs?
BASIC is a very good BASIC. I wrote my first BASIC program in September of 1965. 14 months after BASIC was invented. I've seen a lot of BASICs.
Is it similar?
It's a very, if you knew Microsoft BASIC, you could program it with no problem. It's a very solid. Let me do this again. Come on. There's some rules here. You can boot any of these things. I could have demonstrated that by saying L run, which is a load and run, MDV1 underscore BOOT, which is the bootstrap on all the disks, and by and by you get the thing. Actually, it's kind of fun to look at with the top on. It's very cute. Let me see what we got here. I'm putting this into the wrong places. Okay, the Abacus is a spreadsheet. We're looking at the spreadsheet portion of it. My partner over there is showing off word processing and database stuff. If that's your low of your life, then you probably want to slip that.
So it'd be very simple to put in an operating system sort of toolkit type ROM, which is almost certain to come out. That's the only thing that has annoyed me, that some of the things which can easily be done, people can't be bothered to do. Maybe the absence of a full screen editor, the fact that somebody has actually written us a sort of prototype full screen editor, and it's just we haven't had time to put it in properly. But again, it'll be easy to interface later.
What's in the ROM?
And the ROM, that's the sort of sum of the operating system BASIC. I mean, I don't know exactly what's in it. It's just that the ROM has grown to 48K because in the UK they're being shipped with the ROMs outside as well. Right. What we've said is to people, we feel you'd rather have the machine in the current state than no machine at all. So we're shipping you with the ROM outside. Later on, you'll be able to send it back, and we'll put the ROMs inside for you and tidy it up. People have been waiting quite a long time because it was launched in January and only delivered at the end
What
of
about
last year.
doing something about getting one of these things? If you wanted to put it in, get on a mailing list, so you'd be sure to get an order form whenever they come out and all kinds.
We have an office here in Boston. Now I don't have the number for that. Offhand, I can't see Maggie or Mary.
You just call them up?
Yeah, I mean, I've been sort of sitting there fixing these machines up, sort of making certain they're all just right. And I've been listening to people receiving phone calls from all over the States. Apparently Midwest, a lot of people have been phoning from the Midwest today for some reason. And yeah, I mean, they get their name and address taken, put down on the mailing list for brochures being mailed out sometime in June, apparently.
Are you treating software developers differently?
I don't know if it's that one. I mean, if it's only going to get sent to people in June, then it presumably isn't that one because it's still at the printers, but it could be that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But these won't actually be available physically in hand probably until the fall. Is that what that's what the prediction is?
That's what I hear, yeah.
I mean, like November, October, December, what?
November.
November.
It depends on how well the development of the NTSC chip is. There's the custom logic array has to be changed around a bit to generate the video signals. I don't know. I think it is quite difficult to achieve sometimes. Certainly.
They do. They listen for the noisiness of the machine.
Yeah. I know we had a lot of difficulty getting something very similar to FCC for the Spectrum. I think in Sweden they have very similar regulations. We had a lot of trouble getting that approval. I think this is inherently a less noisy machine, but I don't know what difficulties might crop up, so it's very difficult to tell.
I'm curious, will the US machine have a DHF or UHF? Thank you.
I don't know. It'll be whatever's the most common for current use.
I've heard what users of the older ZX81 computers say that the UHF modulator for purposes of using a commercial television set gave a better picture because you could stand somewhat better bandwidth and less interference from the broadcast.
I imagine we'll use whatever system gives the best quality, and with something of that resolution, you need absolutely the best quality you can get. I'm not an expert in television systems, really.